Malignant Hearts are a powerful new addition to Diablo 4 added in the first season, and as far as we know they're not going to be sticking around, so you might as well have fun with them while they last. The developers introduced them as a new way to play game-breaking builds, and there are definitely some worthy of that title. But before you can use them to break the game, you need to obtain them, and that's where this video comes in. I'm going to go over all of the common and a few of the uncommon ways to get Malignant Hearts. First up, as a quick disclaimer, to interact with a seasonal mechanic at all, you need to make a seasonal character, which means if you're already playing D4 before the season, yes, you do need to restart, make a new character, and start leveling again. If you haven't completed the campaign, be sure to do so on the Eternal Realm before restarting, because you can't interact with a seasonal mechanic until after you've completed the campaign, so there's kind of no point in going through it twice. After you complete the campaign once, you can skip it on all future characters. Now, with that disclaimer out of the way, time to get into it. But quickly before I do, if you want to know what the best and worst hearts are in Diablo 4, I'm going to be releasing a Malignant Heart tier list very soon. Get subscribed so you won't miss it, and if you want to have a little fun, feel free to guess what the best and worst hearts are down in the comments below. But now, with that said, how do you get Malignant Hearts? First up, you'll get them just by going through the open world. Sometimes an elite will be corrupted by malignants. It can either be a vicious, devious, brutal, or wrathful elite. Vicious hearts focus on damage, so expect vicious elites to do a lot of damage. Brutal hearts focused on defenses, so expect brutal elites to have things like barrier. Devious hearts are utility focused, so expect the elites to drain your resources. Yeah, it's really annoying. I don't quite know why that's a thing. And last but not least, wrathful are the rarest and most powerful hearts in the game. And I'll be completely honest, I don't exactly know what the rares do because I mostly just kill them instantly. I guess I can just chalk that up to rogue things. Either way, you can get hearts just out in the open world, which also means if you go to an elite dense area, such as grinding in the PvP zone, you will get a fairly decent number of hearts, but this is definitely not the ideal way to farm them. Next up is the game's recommended way to farm them, which is going into Malignant tunnels and using invokers. There are 6 Malignant tunnels located around the world of Sanctuary. And you can think of these as mini dungeons. When you go in, you'll be given a simple objective. Defeat 3 things, kill 2 monsters, or, of course, slay everything. As you go through, pay close attention to the monsters you're killing because there's going to be 2 to 3 malignant elites on the way. Then, by the end, you get to use an invoker, summoning a more powerful elite to fight and get its heart. One of the growths will always be Wrathful, and the other will be random between Vicious, Brutal, and Devious. If you want to farm Wrathful hearts in particular, fighting the seasonal boss, Varshan, is a pretty good way to do it. To be able to farm the boss, you need to first complete the seasonal quests. This gets you your first Invoker of Varshan, and you can fight the normal version available in World Tier 2. After you defeat him, you get a recipe which you can use to craft Foul Invoker of Varshan, and fight him on World Tier 3. Defeat him again, and you get Tormented Invoker of Varshan, finally letting you fight him on World Tier 4. Overall, I found the fight to be fairly easy, though he does inflict a horrifying amount of poison, and also seems to have a resource drain after he absorbs malignant enemies, meaning he is quite annoying, but not actually that threatening. In the footage, you can see I'm several levels below and still able to pretty easily take down the fight. So in general, the strategy I would advise if you're looking to farm hearts is to go into the malignant tunnels, bring an invoker, kill all the enemies, and hopefully you get what you want that way. Though even if you don't, it's not the end of the line, because you can also craft hearts at Corman's Bench. This is also where you craft invokers, so if you wanted to fight Varshan, that's where you have to go. I happen to prefer to craft at the version in Kyovashad because it's in the town, and you don't have to go to any weird places like some of the other zones. But there is a Corman Bench in each of the 3 zones that have malignant tunnels. Just like with most things, you can break unwanted hearts down for crafting materials, then use these crafting materials to get more hearts and invokers. It should be noted the only way to get a Wrathful Invoker is the random Invoker craft, and it doesn't seem particularly worthwhile as you don't get them that often. I mean, you don't have very much better to do with the resources, so you might as well, but ultimately, I'd rather get a Wrathful Heart as a drop, because most of the time, that's just a lot faster. Now, in terms of this next topic, I'm a little hesitant to talk about it, but I'm going to mention it because otherwise people will bring it up anyway. There are some videos going around about how if you haven't completed your seasonal quest line, you can reset everything, and essentially loop it infinitely to farm a ton of Wrathful Hearts. Currently, this is a thing in Diablo 4, however, it's clearly not intended gameplay, so I would expect it to be patched. If it's still up, I guess, great, go wild. I already completed my seasonal quest line, so it's not going to help me at all. But I also wouldn't expect it to stick around. It's probably going to get hotfixed soon, so if by the time you're watching this it doesn't work, I'm not surprised. But with that said, I did want to add just a couple more tips and tricks before I go. Number 1, if you're looking to fight Varshan, you need to enter the Malignant Tunnels with a door. And from my experience, the Ravening Pit is your best bet, not only because this one has a door, but also it's pretty near a waypoint, so fairly easy to get to. As a second tip, higher level hearts are better than lower level ones, and certain hearts are drop restricted to World Tier 3 and 4. So when you're planning to go out and farm best in slot hearts for your build, you need to be at World Tier 4. Tip number 3, you can only use one Wrathful heart, which sometimes gets a little bit awkward, because what if you want to replace the Wrathful heart you currently have equipped? Well, if you try to override it directly, it doesn't work. The game tells you, hey, you can't equip 2 of these, even though you're equipping one to override the other. To solve this problem, simply take the item off of your character, put it in your inventory, override the heart, and then re-equip it. And finally, as part of your seasonal journey, you get Smoldering Ashes. One of the rewards that you can spec into is Urn of Malignance, which boosts the chance of getting powerful Malignant heart drops. So if you want to get some better hearts, try to allocate a few ashes there. You can respec your Smoldering Ashes, but I wouldn't do it too frequently since the cost goes up every time you do, and as far as I know, that cost never resets. Now that I've talked about how to farm Malignant Hearts, I wanted to give my thoughts on the system as a whole. And on the one hand, I like that several can be very build enabling. For example, incentivizing crowd control where you otherwise might not need it, or providing it where you might not otherwise have access to it. And the Barber is quite an interesting example of a way to completely change up your build, focusing on single target to do more AoE. However, I also can't help but feel like they're severely underwhelming. If this was an upgrade to the current gem system, then it's a pretty darn good one. But if this is supposed to be a powerful standalone system, one that's so strong it might not actually go core, I barely notice the fights with the malignant monsters. In fact, sometimes I miss hearts just because I didn't notice that that's what I killed. And the whole aspect of farming by fishing rather than having any manner to target what you want, okay, technically yes, you can kind of sort of target, but let's be honest, the hearts that people are farming for are Wrathful ones, and those are a pain to target. It just feels a little bit weird to me. I'm not saying that you should be able to print infinite Barbers, but I do think at the very least you should have been able to dismantle Wrathful hearts to make more Wrathful hearts rather than just hoping you get one. Though, that said, it's still a good system, and I kind of hope that Blizzard keeps it around, but I do also wish it was just a little bit better. But if you reach level 100, you'll be able to activate every bonus, so I guess that's cool at least. So that's a little bit of information on Malignant Hearts in Diablo 4's first season, where to get them, how to get them, what to do to get them, and so hopefully with that knowledge in hand, you can go out, farm the Barber, or whatever Malignant your heart desires. If you're looking for something else to watch, there's a recommendation on screen right now, or maybe check out a video on my current build, some of my thoughts on the season more generally, and a roundup of some other tips and tricks, including changes from the recent hotfix. You can find all of those things up in the card and down in the description below. Now, before I go, a special thanks to my patrons and channel members for the continued support. Link to that is also down in the description. And if you want to know what each of the hearts do, there's a great list over at MaxwellGG, which I'll link below. But with that said, congratulations on making it to the end, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again sometime soon.